This is HFY Vanguard, no surrender, no retreat. Humanity always finds a way, and this story starts now. Blood still looked black under Hive City's perpetual twilight. Rand Karst crouched over the body, the way old habits taught him, not like a cop anymore. He hadn't been a cop for 3 years, but like something closer to a ghost, retracing the living. His prosthetic eye clicked faintly, a thin line of crimson light passing over the mangled biotag port at the base of the corpse's neck. Whoever had done this hadn't just killed. They had harvested. Surgical precision, steady hand, and the kind of cruelty that made dying stretch far too long. Third body this week. Same wounds, same careful positioning. The victim lay flat on her back, arms crossed like some parody of reverence, eyes clouded, but still reflecting what little neon filtered down 40 levels below the surface. Rand muttered to himself, voice gravel dragged across concrete. Same angle, same depth, same expletive, ritual. The words were eaten immediately by the abandoned warehouse's silence. Even the rats avoided this level. Hive City built upward for centuries, but down here the bones of forgotten sectors rotted quietly. Somewhere above industry, traffic roared, and a million lives carried on ignoring the dead zones. Down here, only ghosts worked. Rand was supposed to be one of them. Officially, Rand Karst had died in the Sector 7 incident. His badge buried his case files, sealed his partner, Marissa Olson, listed as killed in action. Oversight liked their problems quiet, and a dead detective was the quietest solution of all. Yet here he was kneeling beside another mutilated body, still chasing patterns. Because ghosts carried their failures, and failure was what he breathed. He stood slowly, the weight of his left knee grinding against scar tissue. The prosthetic eye painted faint overlays across the scene angles, projected trajectories, microanalysis. All of it lined up too neatly with 3-year-old memories. Olson's body had looked the same. Same bruising around the port, as if consciousness had lingered during extraction. Same deliberate arrangement, a signature burned into Rand's brain. The only problem, he had killed the man responsible. Personally, buried him, watched dirt swallow him whole. So how was the same horror repeating? He muttered to the corpse. You're not supposed to exist, neither am I. Then metal scraped against concrete above. His organic eye flicked upward, muscles taut. The prosthetic registered motion, first a metallic form descending through a vent. 1 drone, then 3, then 6. Their carapaces carried Oversight's double helix insignia glowing acid green. Targeting lasers painted red dots across the wall. Dead men weren't supposed to investigate murders. Dead men were supposed to rot in files no one opened. Rand swore and bolted. The vertical city became a labyrinth. Catwalks rusted to lace shafts leading into darkness. Ladders that groaned with every step. His body knew the routes better than his mind, muscle memory. Old patrol paths burned into nerves. He sprinted across a causeway where junkies used to cook their veins, dove into a ventilation grid, crawled through narrow tunnels. The drones followed electricity sparking from their stunners. One caught him at an intersection current lancing into his chest. The world went white, then black, then bureaucratically complicated. He woke cuffed to a chair. The interrogation room pulsed with sterile authority walls shifting from opaque to transparent, depending on who watched. Rand's throat burned like rust. He licked cracked lips. If corpses get water, I'd like some. A plastic cup slid across the table. The woman opposite him barely looked up from her data pad. Middle management aura, exhausted authority carved into her face. Rand Karst, she said flatly, says here you're dead. Feel dead, he croaked, sipping. Good filing work. 3 counts trespassing, restricted zones. Contamination of multiple crime scenes. Impersonating a living person. Her eyes lifted sharp, precise. That last one's new. Legal had to dust off the statute. Rand smiled without humor, always happy to innovate. She leaned back. The walls flickered transparent, showing a bullpen buzzing with agent screens and too much caffeine. You've been tracking the biotag murders, same as us. Except you started 2 weeks before our first official report. Coincidence? Lucky guess. Another lucky guess, Sector 7. Detective Olson. Same pattern, same killer. Except you swore you put him down. So tell me, Karst, why are children dying again? The name hit like shrapnel. Rand looked away, fingers twitching against the cuffs. Olsen's ghost always showed up on schedule. The director he remembered now, her name was Vera, shut off the holodisplay. The air between them thickened. We've got 13 bodies across 4 sectors. Someone harvesting mixed heritage biotags. We need answers. Oversight won't give us time. So here's the deal: you work for us, unofficial, erased within the system. A man already dead can't be erased again, or I hand you back to oversight. Their creativity makes our interrogation look like a spa weekend. Rand swallowed. What's the catch? Vera smiled the way lawyers did before throwing knives. You get a partner. The door hissed. The temperature dropped. She entered like a shadow sharpened into form. Purple skin, metallic sheen catching the light, rose gold hair bound in braids laced with silver clips. Eyes the color of molten amber that cataloged every weakness in Rand before he blinked. Her posture radiated coiled violence. This is the corpse. Her voice carried consonants like blades. Rand's first thought, purple shouldn't look that good on anyone. His second, predator, pretending not to be hungry. Inspector Zur Lavarne of Kaura Prime Vera introduced. Special consultant. Zur tilted her head, movement too smooth, too precise. This is what you give Zur to work with. Dead man who failed Sector 7, who let children die. Rand's throat locked. The memory burned. One child, he muttered. The others were already. She moved, faster than thought. One instant by the door, the next, her face filled his vision. Eyes molten silver patterns, shifting under her skin like mercury. 23, she hissed. Zur counted. Zur remembers their names. Vera's voice cracked authority like a whip. Back off, Inspector. You knew the terms when you agreed. Zur straightened hands, adjusting, clips in her braids, gesture, precise, almost ritual. Self-soothing that looked like loading weapons. She sat finally like a cobra coiling. Very well. Work with the corpse. Pretend incompetence is insight. Ignore that better people rot while this one still breathes. Rand smirked weakly. Charming. Do all your partners get the welcome wagon, or am I special? Partners. Zur laughed, edges cutting. No, Zur works alone. Zur succeeds alone. Bureaucrats decide otherwise. Dead weight, apparently. Literal dead weight. Her eyes narrowed. Rules don't speak to Zur unless necessary. Don't stand within 2 meters. Don't touch. Not even to save your worthless life. Touch without permission, lose what touched. She bared teeth not designed for vegetables. Translation loses poetry but not meaning. Rand raised eyebrows. Wasn't planning on it. Good. Then maybe corpse survives long enough to be useful. Vera stood, ending the exchange. First crime scenes waiting in Sector 9. Try not to kill each other before you get there. The garage smelled of ozone and failed maintenance. A battered hovercar weighted its hull, patched with decades of disuse. Zur stalked toward the driver's side, moving like she owned gravity. Keys. Rand snorted. Like hell. I know the city. You don't. She held out her hand, unimpressed. Corpse knows gutters. Zur needs access codes. Mid-level clearance. Clean protocols. Also, Corpse's prosthetic cannot process hover grid overlays unless Bureau-gifted military hardware. She was right, which made it worse. He tossed the keys, slumped into the passenger seat. Zur folded into the cockpit like predator grace wrapped in muscle. Up close, the silver filigree beneath her purple skin pulsed double time with her heartbeat. Suppressants weren't holding. Stop staring, she said. Occupational hazard. I investigate things. Investigate the case file, unless Corpse already knows who kills mixed bloods. Rand leaned back, shadow swallowing him. Better than calling them genetic anomalies. Zur's jaw clenched. Kaura Prime breeds purity. Controlled cycles. Optimal traits. Sometimes genetics rebel. Wrong patterns, wrong hormones, wrong everything. Then daughter shipped off-world. Badge or breeding pit. Zur chose badge. Regrets choice 43 cycles. Her laugh etched glass. Rand didn't answer. He watched Hive City's towers blur past neon, bleeding into artificial twilight. Ghost and Predator locked together by Bureau mandate, heading toward a crime scene that already smelled like a grave. The hovercar coughed, blew exhaust as it dipped into Sector 9. Hive City always smelled of corrosion and desperation, but the mid-levels had their own perfume, cheap disinfectant, masking old blood incense from back alley shrines and the tang of ozone leaking from worn-out energy grids. Rand's prosthetic eye mapped the streets in red overlays pointing out blind corners, exits, choke points. His organic eye, however, never left his new partner. Zur drove like she was hunting the city itself. Every flick of her wrist on the controls was precise, aggressive, more instinct than training. "You're too comfortable here," she said suddenly. Her voice was half snarl, half silk. "Corpse belongs to rot levels, yet corpse navigates like predator." "Why?" Rand smirked. "Because I know where the bodies are buried, sometimes literally." Her eyes flicked toward him, molten amber catching the dashboard glow. "Flippant. Hides guilt. Zur smells it. Then quit sniffing." He tapped his prosthetic temple. "Try reading this instead. No pheromones, no sweat, just hardware and ghosts." She said nothing, but her jaw clenched once before turning her focus back to the grid. The crime scene wasn't officially a crime scene yet. That was how Bureau played the game. If it wasn't tagged in the system, then it didn't exist. Mixed blood girl in her 20s collapsed in an alley between an enhancement clinic and a body mod parlor. No drones, no perimeter tape, just another accident destined for oversiight's endless files. The alley was a shrine to decay. Graffiti layered like scar tissue across walls puddles, slick with something that definitely wasn't rain. The victim lay crumpled against a dumpster, hair spread like a broken halo, her skin carrying the faint iridescence of a hybrid heritage. Zur crouched low, every movement controlled, as if touching the ground might ignite something inside her. She inhaled deeply, nostrils flaring. Perfume, expensive, sweet not cloying, trying to impress someone, mixed Galaxian and human. Pretty once. Rand's prosthetic eye lit the body, casting red scans across the wound. The biotag port scarred tissue torn with surgical precision. Same depth, same angle, same ritual placement. His jaw tightened. Pattern matches, just like the warehouse. Not robbery. Zur's voice was flat. Not black market. Tags worth more than city block. So not money. Trophies maybe. Or ritual. The air hissed. Both turned simultaneously, instincts snapping taut. From the walls, concealed panels slid open. Drones poured out sleeker, deadlier than the earlier swarm. Oversight insignia glowed acid green across their carapaces. "Set up," Rand growled. Zur's claws extended with a metallic snap, nails elongating into curved weapons. Corpse led Zur into trap. "Not my trap." Rand's fingers twitched toward his stunner, even as targeting lasers painted his chest. The first blast came fast, sizzling the air. Zur spun impossibly quick, using her momentum to tear through a drone. Her claws sliced cleanly, sparks showering the alley. She moved like water, turning violent, like every nightmare ever whispered about alien predators. Rand fired shots sizzling against armor, buying seconds at best. "We need an exit." Zur didn't answer. Her patterns blazed beneath her purple skin, pulsing like living lightning. Another drone lunged, and she met it midair, ripping it apart with feral grace. For the first time, Rand saw what Kara Prime warriors meant. Not soldiers, beasts leashed by culture and suppressants. She turned too fast, her eyes molten gold, now pupils contracted into predatory slits. For a terrifying heartbeat, her gaze locked on him, not the drones. Him. Zeran barked, backing toward the only corner not covered. "Control yourself." Her jaw clenched, her breath ragged, every inhale pulling pheromones into the air. His prosthetic eye flickered warnings, atmospheric contamination, elevated hormonal signatures. This wasn't just battle frenzy. This was biology breaking chains. A drone fired. Rand dove, but the blast caught his shoulder. Pain flared white hot, driving him to his knees. The smell of his own blood filled the air. Zur froze. Her claws trembled. The silver filigree beneath her skin blazed brighter, responding to the scent. Every instinct screamed at her, protect, claim, consume. She staggered forward, half snarl, half sob. Rand forced his good arm up, pointing his weapon not at the drones but at her. "Zur, don't." Her breath came in ragged growls. "Your blood." Every cell screams. "Claim." Sector 70 rasp voice cutting through the haze. "You remember it, I do. Olsen tried to save them. Tried to save you. They killed her for it. You think I'll let them do it again?" You think I'll let you become their weapon? Her claws shook inches from his throat. For a heartbeat, everything froze, the drones, the alley, the entire city holding its breath. Then she ripped herself backward, slamming against the wall, snarling at her own biology. She tore through another drone in a blur, channeling frenzy into violence. Rand dragged himself upright, using pain as momentum, blasting stunners until the alley smelled of ozone and metal ash. Together, somehow, they carved a path out. They didn't stop running until the city's vertical sprawl swallowed them. Rand collapsed against a rusted bulkhead, his shoulder bleeding hot and thick. Zur stood a few meters away, breathing hard, her hands adjusting the clips in her braids again and again. The silver beneath her skin pulsed like it wanted to break free. "You almost killed me," he said, voice rough. Her head snapped up. Corpse bled. Zur's biology. Biology wanted... She broke off, frustration grinding into her tone. Not excuse, only truth. He laughed bitterly, then winced at the pain. Great, my new partner's a predator with impulse control issues. She bared her teeth. Corpse mocks, but corpse still lives. Barely. Silence stretched between them, thick with blood and pheromones. Rand forced himself to meet her eyes, amber, still rimmed with molten gold. You saved me, even if you wanted to tear me apart. So maybe we've got a chance at this partnership thing after all. Her laugh was sharp as glass. Partnership number survival. Maybe. The Bureau didn't send backup. Of course not. Dead men didn't file reports and predators weren't meant to stand beside them. Rand knew one thing, though. Whatever haunted Hive City wasn't just about biotags or rituals. Someone wanted mixed blood erased, and Oversight was happy to oblige. He had been erased once already. He wouldn't let them erase her too, not when she fought this hard to keep herself leashed. Not when she reminded him too much of his own ghosts. The doctor's office smelled like antiseptic and fear. Dr. Yesesh ran a legitimate clinic on paper. The Bureau's files showed a string of permits, health audits, and clean contracts. But Rand had been a detective long enough to know the more polished the surface, the more rot underneath. The waiting room was too quiet, the receptionist's smile too plastic, and the reinforced walls carried faint ripples of dampening fields. Paranoia disguised as professionalism. Zur walked 3 steps ahead, every line of her body tense, her braids clicking softly as the metal clips shifted under her fingers. A predator entering unfamiliar territory. Her amber eyes scanned everything, the ceiling vents, the exits, the way the receptionist tapped a rhythm on her screen like a signal. Rand trailed behind his shoulder, wrapped in a field dressing that still leaked red. Pain sharpened his focus. The prosthetic eye highlighted structural reinforcements, escape routes, potential choke points. He didn't trust this place any more than she did. When the doctor finally entered, Rand almost laughed. Yesesh looked like he'd been assembled from spare parts. Too many fingers on each hand, eyes that blinked, sideways skin that flickered between shades as if color couldn't decide where to settle. A walking advertisement for his own genetic modifications. Bureau Oversight, Zur said, flashing her credentials. Her voice was a weapon in itself, sharp enough to flay lies from flesh. We have questions about your clientele. Yesesh's smile tightened. I run a legitimate practice. Zur stepped closer, her presence filling the space like a storm. Try again. The doctor's sideways blink accelerated. His skin flushed pale green. I may have patients who prefer discretion. Rand leaned against the wall, watching. Better now. Let's talk about the dead ones. These 5. He flicked his wrist, projecting images from his prosthetic. 5 victims, each with surgical scars across their biotag ports. All came through here. All dead. Yesesh's hands wrung together, 7 fingers twining like roots, choking themselves. I can't patient confidentiality. Zur moved faster than Rand could track, her claws unsheathed just enough to gleam under the light. She didn't touch him, but her presence pressed like a blade against his throat. Confidentiality ends with coffins. Speak. The doctor swallowed. They wanted modifications, biotag reconfiguration. They wanted to pass as purebloods, hide their mixing. Rand felt something crack inside his chest. Of course. Desperation always found black markets. The mixed lived under constant threat, ostracized, hunted, erased. If a surgeon offered them a chance to wear a mask of purity, they'd take it even if the risk was lethal. Yes, Seth, she said softly, you knew that it was dangerous. Biotags aren't just ID, they're genetic truth. You tamper, the body fights back. The doctor's eyes blinked sideways twice. I told them. They didn't care. Said hiding was better than burning. Zer made a low sound halfway between a growl and a gasp. Her shoulders tensed, her breathing shifted, controlled, then carefully controlled. The silver filigree beneath her skin flickered once, twice. Rand saw it instantly. The tremors, the patterns. Her suppressants were failing. His gut tightened. Dr. Rand said quickly, forcing the spotlight away from her. Did they say why, who they were hiding from? Yesish hesitated, eyes darting to Zer then back. His skin shifted orange, then pale. There's talk. Rumors of a purge, worse than Sector 7. A group calling themselves the Convergence. They want to solve the mixing problem permanently. The name dropped like a blade between them. Rand's prosthetic eye recorded everything, but his organic one stayed fixed on Zer. She stood perfectly still, yet her hands trembled against the wall claws half extended. The silver under her skin no longer flickered. It pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Inspector Rand said gently, stepping forward. Breathe. Don't. Her voice came sharp enough to cut steel. Need. Moment. Continue questioning. She slipped out before he could stamp her, moving with the deliberate precision of someone carrying a live explosive. The bathroom door slammed somewhere down the hall. Yasesh stared unsettled. Is she? Focus! Rand's voice snapped like a whip. You said purge. Who's behind him? The doctor's fingers tangled again. The name that comes up most, Primarch Salin Gower. He calls mixed bloods contamination. Says convergence is coming whether we help or not. The room tilted. Gower. Rand knew the name. Too well. He shoved the memory down before it surfaced. Dr. Rand said hoarsely, you'd better have proof. Yesesh nodded frantically, shoving a tablet toward him. I downloaded everything. Patient files, communication logs, references. It's all here. Rand took it, scanning quickly. Names, dates, cross-sector transfers, and then a file that froze his blood. Sector 7 cleansing protocol. His fingers trembled as he opened it. Grainy footage filled the screen. A medical facility, holding cells, children behind reinforced glass, some purple skin, others with human features blurred by alien heritage. A man in oversight uniform strode between them, voice cold, resonant. Subjects 1 through 19 show unacceptable genetic deviation. Recommend immediate termination. Off-screen, another voice asked, what about the purebloods, Primarch Gower? The camera swung, revealing a group of children separated from the rest. Among them, a small girl no older than 5. Purple skin, silver-streaked hair, terrified eyes. The Laverne child shows acceptable markers. She can be reformed, controlled. The others, Gower smiled, young and cruel. Contamination. Burn them. The footage erupted into chaos, guards dragging children, screams, fire. Turn it off. Rand hadn't heard her enter. Zer stood directly behind him, too close. He killed the feed slowly, then turned. Her eyes were molten gold. The silver beneath her skin rippled like liquid fire. That was you, he whispered. The little girl who lived because your patterns were pretty. Her hand hovered near the capsule at his neck, not quite touching. Zer knows that metal. Containment units. You were there. Rand's chest constricted. Memories he'd buried clawed upward. My partner Olsen, she tried to stop it. Tried to save them. They killed her for interfering. I was supposed to die too, but somehow I didn't. For a moment, the air between them was unbearable. 2 survivors who weren't supposed to exist staring at each other through shared graves. Zer's pupils narrowed to slits, then widened. Her voice dropped to a whisper. 2 witnesses, 2 ghosts. And now, someone wants to finish what they started. Rand nodded grimly. No, they want something worse. They want to start again. The sound of glass shattering cut through the moment. Windows exploded inward. Mercenaries in tactical gear descended on ropes, rifles raised. Not drones this time. Not oversight. Humans, black market muscle hired for dirty work. Down Rand barked, grabbing the stunner with his good arm. The first merc fired. Energy slammed into his shoulder, sending him spinning. Zer moved like violent poetry. She hit the first merc before his finger found the trigger claws punching through armor like it was paper. Blood sprayed, painting the clinic walls. She spun, using his body as a shield, hurling it into the second attacker. Her patterns flared so bright they lit the room. Rand staggered upright, shoulder screaming just in time to see her face change. Not physically, but deeper. The inspector mask vanished. What remained was something primal, something that belonged to the dark between stars. The third merc tried to run. She caught him at the window, claws wrapped around his throat. "Who sent you?" Her voice was an octave too low, thick with alien resonance. The merc choked. "Can't, won't." Wrong answer. She let him dangle another inch over the edge. "Gower," he gasped finally. Prime March Gower said the convergence was coming, said contamination had to be erased. She dropped him, his scream cut off against reinforced concrete 3 stories below. Rand's stunner shook in his hand. Zur. She turned chest-heaving eyes pure gold now. Her claws dripped. The silver beneath her skin pulsed so brightly it seemed to lift off her body. "You're hurt," she said. Her voice was still wrong, too deep, too hungry. She stepped closer, then stopped the fingers clawing at her braids like ammunition. "Zer can't help, can't touch. If Zer touches now..." "I'm fine," Rand lied, blood soaking his jacket. "Lie," she snarled. "Corpse bleeds. Pain scent. Heartbeat. It's triggering." She slammed herself against the wall, sliding down until she crouched like a caged animal. No control. No. Her laugh cracked, brittle and broken. "Zer's people smell injury. Protect pack. Then claim pack. Biology always wins." Rand forced his voice steady, the same tone he'd once used to talk jumpers off ledges. "Then tell me what you need." Her claws dug into the floor. Tears, faintly purple, tracked her cheeks. Distance. Silence. Time. Before Zer makes corpse hers. Before biology eats the rest. Rand's body screamed pain, but he stayed rooted, because for the first time he saw what truly haunted her. Not just biology, shame. A lifetime of being told her instincts made her a monster. And maybe, just maybe, they didn't have to. The capsule hotel squatted between a noodle shop and a memory mod parlor, neon signs flickering in desperate colors. From the outside, it looked harmless enough, a cheap place where workers paid for a few hours of unconsciousness and recycled air. But Rand's instincts screamed wrong. Too many eyes on the street, too many shadows lingering. Still, options were running thin. Inside the capsule was barely big enough for one person, let alone two. A narrow coffin with walls that smelled of disinfectant circuitry humming faintly behind thin panels. Rand shoved himself into one corner, his bad shoulder pressed against cool metal. Zer folded herself against the opposite side, her limbs taut, her braids clicking, as restless fingers adjusted the silver clips again and again. 18 inches between them, not nearly enough. "This is a terrible idea," Zer muttered, pulling up the data pad they'd stolen from Yasesh. Her patterns pulsed faintly in the dark, casting violet light across the cramped space. "Should have stolen a car, slept in shifts while driving." "You need rest," Rand said, his voice low. "When's the last time you slept?" Her amber eyes didn't leave the data pad. 73 hours. "You're joking. Sleep is when control slips." "Zer does not slip." Rand snorted softly. "Everyone slips, even predators." She ignored him, scanning the data with mechanical intensity. Rand's prosthetic eye caught her pulse rate rising, her breathing hitching micro tremors in her fingers. He recognized withdrawal shakes from suppressants. Except this wasn't just chemical dependency. This was biology clawing through the cracks. A sound drifted through the capsule wall. Male voices, 2 doors down. "Purple woman, dead cop. Bonus for alive. Primarch wants them intact." Zer's head tilted sharply, nostrils flaring. Her pupils narrowed to slits. She whispered, 4, no 5. 1 by the exit. Rand strained but heard nothing. Enhanced senses. Of course. They'll sweep every room, he said. We run. No. She set the data pad aside and reached into her jacket. Knives, explosives, lockpicks. Her movements were too smooth, too practiced. If they scan, they'll know what Zur is. No hiding, only choice. She stopped abruptly. Her eyes locked onto him. And then without warning, she yanked the clips free from her braids. Her hair fell around her shoulders like rose gold fire. Rand blinked. What the hell are you? Hide in plain sight. She moved before he could react, straddling his lap, pressing him back against the capsule wall. Her weight pinned him, her breath hot against his throat. Zer, shut up. Her voice was a growl against his skin. Hands, waist, now. His hands obeyed before thought caught up, settling at her hips. The heat of her body radiated through thin fabric, trembling with restraint. Her mouth hovered at his pulse, not kissing, just breathing. His heart hammered against her lips. The door exploded inward. 3 men in civilian clothes but military bearings stormed in, scanners raised. They froze at the sight, a couple locked in apparent passion, limbs entangled pheromones, heavy in the air. One mercenary snorted, just another mixed pair getting their kicks. Scan and move on. The device beeped, sweeping over them. Elevated hormones, rapid heartbeats, heat signatures. Perfect biological markers of arousal. No red flags, no Karen predator classification. Clear, one said, chuckling. Though if I were him, I'd be careful. Purple girls bite. They laughed and moved on. The broken door hung open, leaving them exposed to neon hallway light. But Zer didn't move. Couldn't. Every muscle in her body shook with suppressed violence. Her nails dug into his scalp, sharp enough to draw blood without meaning to. They're gone, Rand whispered. She pressed her face into his neck, trembling. Can't move. If Zer moves now, Zer hunts. Zer kills. Her patterns flared so bright they lit the capsule like lightning. Her breath came in growls, words fractured by biology. Hold. Hold until passes. So he held her. Minutes bled into hours, marked only by her ragged breathing against his throat, the wet heat of alien tears soaking his collar, the tremors that racked her frame. Every sound outside the capsule faded until only her heartbeat mattered, double-time frantic, trying to outrun instinct. Eventually, the light beneath her skin dimmed. Her breathing slowed. The tremors eased muscle by muscle. Finally, she pulled back, exhausted. Her eyes had returned to amber, though shadows lingered. She climbed off him, slowly retreating to her corner. The space between them felt charged, transformed. Zer apologizes, she said formally, her voice hoarse. That was inappropriate. Rand rubbed his throat where her teeth had hovered dangerously close. That was smart. Saved our asses. Also dangerous. Almost too dangerous. She wouldn't look at him. Yeah, well. He leaned back, trying to ignore how his body still remembered her weight. Danger's kind of my thing. For a moment, silence stretched. Then she whispered almost too softly, when they laughed, when they stood so close. Every instinct said kill. Only your heartbeat kept Zer grounded. Like pack, like mate, but not. He swallowed hard. You stopped. That's what matters. Stop this time. She curled her arms around herself, small for once. Next time, maybe not. Time after that, definitely not. She looked at him, then eyes gleaming faint gold in the dim. So corpse must swear. Swear that when Zer loses control, corpse will end it. Promise on partner's grave. Rand shook his head instantly. No. Her movement blurred faster than his prosthetic could track. She slammed him against the capsule wall claws, bracketing his face, her breath hot, her eyes molten. Swear, she hissed, or Zer walks away now, finds deep hole, dies alone, better than becoming monster. Her grip was iron, but her eyes terrified, not of death, of herself. Rand met her gaze steadily, heart hammering. On Marissa's grave, he said quietly, if there's no other way, I'll do it. Slowly, she released him, stepped back until distance gave her control again. Good, she whispered. Now we move. 30 hours, corpse. Make them count. They left the capsule hotel under flickering neon, the street alive with whispers and shadows. Above, Hive City roared like a beast devouring itself. Rand walked beside her, his shoulder aching, his throat still burning from where she'd pressed too close. But his mind replayed the moment she demanded the promise. The way her voice broke, the way her eyes pleaded behind all that predator fire. Biology always won, she'd said. But maybe, just maybe, ghosts could fight biology. And he had plenty of ghosts to spend. Hive City never slept. Even in the dead of night, towers shone like steel ribs catching the moon, and neon veins pulsed through streets that never quieted. But something was wrong. The rhythm was off. Too quiet in places that should have been loud, too loud where silence should reign. The city itself seemed to notice them. Ran and Zur moved through back alleys slick with rain shadows stretching long under sodium lamps. Zer's eyes flickered constantly, scanning her predator instincts, twitching at every sound. Rand's prosthetic eye painted the alleys in data heat signatures, too still, comms, chatter bouncing off rooftops, static like whispers. They're awake, Zur muttered. Her patterns glowed faint and warning. Sleeper agents, Primarch turned city into hunting ground. Define sleeper, Rand said grimly. Ordinary people. Merchants, dock hands, kids, all seated with command protocols. At signal they hunt. Rand clenched his jaw. He'd seen it before, corporations seeding remote control chips into desperate colonists who signed contracts without reading the fine print. But this, a city wired to turn itself inside out. At one word, it was madness. A vendor on the corner smiled too wide, hand lingering under his counter. A woman with a stroller paused too long, eyes vacant, as she reached into the folds of the baby blanket for something metallic. Zer yanked Rand behind cover just as the vendor opened fire. Plasma bolts shredded the wall where they'd stood. The stroller tipped over, no baby inside, just a hive of surveillance drones spilling out like hornets. Runzer barked. They sprinted, weaving through collapsing markets and suddenly hostile crowds. A janitor dropped his mop, pulling a blade from the bucket. A schoolboy's eyes turned silver as he shrieked coordinates into the night. Solomon's grid, Zer hissed between breaths. Only he hacks this deep. Rand's mind raced. If Solomon wanted them dead, he wouldn't need theatrics. This was chaos, a message. Maybe, just maybe, the ghost in the grid wasn't trying to kill them. A car screeched around the corner, ahead, headlights glaring. Mercs leaned out the windows, rifles barking blue fire. Rand dove, dragging Zer down behind a pile of refuse. The stench clawed his throat, but the cover held. We're boxed in, Rand said, coughing. Zer can cut through them, she growled, eyes blazing, muscles tensing for the kill. He grabbed her arm hard. No, you'll lose it. You said so yourself. Her pupils narrowed to pinpricks. Then we die here. Not yet, a third voice said, smooth as oil over glass. The alley lights stuttered, then surged. Screens on the surrounding buildings flickered, every ad dissolving into a single symbol, an Ouroboros of circuitry eating its own tail. Solomon's mark. The mercs froze. The sleeper agents twitched like puppets with cut strings. Then just like that, they collapsed, some convulsing, some simply dropping, unconscious. Drones spiraled down from the air, fried mid-flight. Silence returned, broken only by the rain's hiss. Rand's ears rang. Zer crouched, every nerve still taut. Trap, she hissed. Always trap. A shimmer rippled in the air ahead. Holoprojector static formed into a man's figure. Tall, immaculate suit, silver eyes that weren't eyes at all, just glowing data spheres. Solomon? You run loud, detective, the ghost said with a smile too clean to be real. And you drag fire behind you. His gaze shifted to Zer. But you're a storm. Ghost Zer snarled, crouching like she'd leaped through the hologram. Peace, little predator, Solomon said, hands raised in mock surrender. If I wanted you dead, you would already be archived. I offer a different transaction. Rand straightened fists tight. What transaction? 30 hours, Solomon said, ignoring him, eyes locked on Zer. That's how long until your biology betrays you. Until the beast finishes what the Primarch began. Unless, Zer's jaw clenched. Unless what? Unless I rewrite you. Clip the chains. Strip the hunger. Burn the leash. His smile widened shark-like. Freedom. Rand's stomach dropped. You mean reprogram her, like the sleepers? Not like Solomon said, amused. Better. Cleaner. She becomes hers alone. No master, no instinct overriding choice. Imagine it human. Imagine her untethered. Zer's breath came harsh and uneven. Her patterns pulsed in wild confusion. She looked at Rand, desperate and terrified all at once. Don't, Rand said immediately. You know what this is. He doesn't cut chains, he just swaps locks. Solomon tilted his head. Says the man who chained himself to a ghost. I've read you, detective. Your wife's death was an accident. It was design. Sentu traded her life for silence. Rand's world tilted. What did you say? Sentu silenced an inconvenient witness. You were the consolation prize, a partner's grave to keep you pliant. Zer's eyes widened. But Rand wasn't listening. Rage burned hotter than the plasma bolts still smoking in the street. Solomon leaned into it, voice soft and poisonous. I can give you names, proof, vengeance. He gestured between them. Her freedom, your justice. One price, join me. Zer's claws clicked against metal as she flexed them, her breath ragged. Corpse. Rand stared at the hologram, fist trembling. The truth dangled like bait, a hook already tearing his insides. Solomon smiled, knowing the line was tight. Tick-tock, the ghost whispered. The city hunts biology, burns truth waits. Choose. The holo blinked out. The Ouroboros faded from every screen. The city's noise resumed as if nothing had happened. Zer sagged against the wall, shaking. Corpse. If he can do it. If he can burn the leash. Rand grabbed her shoulders, shaking her gently. No, listen to me. You saw what he does. Sleeper agents. Kids. You want to end up another program in a zoo. But no, his voice cracked harsher than he meant. You're you, Zer, even when you're fighting it, especially then. Don't let him take that away. Her breath hitched. She closed her eyes. Then we keep running. Yeah, Rand muttered, looking up at the neon-soaked skyline. His hands still trembled, rage gnawing like acid at his gut. We keep running. That night, the city bled around them. Sirens wailed. Screens blinked with half-truths. Ordinary people turned predators in flashes of silver-eyed obedience. Rand and Zer ghosted through it all, hunted not just by mercs, but by the city itself. And yet beneath the neon glow, a thread connected them. Fear, anger, survival. The promise he'd sworn in the capsule. The shadow of freedom dangled by a ghost in a suit. 30 hours, fewer now, and the city was only just beginning to wake. The rain hadn't stopped. It fell like static over the city, drumming on rooftops, hissing against the neon. Rand and Zer huddled in the shadows of a gutted tram station, cold light flickering over peeling paint and shattered glass. The tracks ran dead into the dark, a skeleton of the past. Zer crouched, low talons dragging faint grooves in the concrete. Her breathing came ragged steam curling from her lips. Patterns raced under her skin, chaotic, uncontrolled, like storm clouds with lightning trapped inside. Rand watched her carefully. His own hands were steady now, but only on the surface. Inside, Solomon's words gnawed like glass shards. His wife's face wouldn't leave his mind. The possibility she'd been murdered, erased by Sentu's hand, it hollowed him, filled him with fire. He hated Solomon for saying it, hated himself for believing it might be true. You're slipping, he said finally, voice low. Zer's head snapped up, blue eyes too bright in the dim. Zer knows. Her voice cracked deeper, edged with something not entirely her own. Storm inside won't stop. He took a slow step closer, palms open. Talk to me. Her claws clenched until blood welled between them. Talk, beast doesn't talk. Beast takes, rips, feeds. She slammed a fist into the wall, concrete exploding in shards. Rand didn't flinch. He'd flinched once the night she first showed him the hunger. He hadn't since. You're not the beast, he said firmly. Her laugh was hollow bitter. Corpse lies to himself. Beast already eating me. She pressed a clawed hand against her chest as if holding something in. Every second closer. Solomon Wright only code can burn it out. Rand felt the pull, the temptation of Solomon's offer. It hung heavy between them like a second storm. And you trust him, the man who turned half this city into weapons. Zer doesn't trust. Zer, desperate. She lowered her head, hair falling across her face. What if Beast kills you before clock runs out? Rand's chest tightened. He knelt down in front of her, catching her eyes. Then I'll die knowing you fought it. Not that you gave yourself to him. Her breath hitched, patterns flaring. You stupid, she whispered. Yeah, he said softly, but I'm yours. For a moment, the storm in her eyes quieted. Just a moment. Then gunfire rattled in the distance, closer than before. The city was tightening again. They had no time to argue. The pursuit. By dawn, the hunt was relentless. Sleeper agents triggered at random, mercenary patrols swept blocks. Drones scanned rooftops. Rand and Zer ran on scraps of energy and instinct, moving through undercity tunnels and sewer veins. Zer was faster, stronger, but also less controlled. Twice she nearly tore apart bystanders who stumbled into their path. Twice Rand had to drag her back, shouting her name, until she blinked and remembered. Each time her horror grew deeper. Each time she whispered the same thing, 30 hours shrinking. Rand's rage at Sentu burned hotter with every breath. Solomon's whisper dug deeper. The idea that the corporation had killed his wife wasn't just a ghost story anymore. It explained too much. The lies, the sealed reports, the way his badge had bought him nothing but silence. When they reached the old Skyrail bridge, Rand stopped. The city sprawled below, alive and hostile, neon veins pulsing like it was breathing. He stared at it, jaw tight. Zer, he said quietly, if Solomon's right, if Sentu did it, his throat tightened, then I'm not walking away. Not this time. Zer looked at him, something fierce in her fading clarity. You want revenge? I want truth, Rand snapped. Then softer, but yeah, revenge too. Zer stepped closer, claws brushing his arm. Then beast and corpse same, both chained to fire inside. Her words cut deep, but he didn't deny them. The fracture. By nightfall, exhaustion caught them. They holed up in an abandoned biolab on the city's edge, a skeleton of rusted equipment and shattered tanks. The air stank of chemicals and old death. Zer curled in the corner, shaking violently. Her skin glowed with violent patterns, veins of fire. Rand set up crude barricades, then sat near her, unable to look away. She whispered broken. It's close, beast at almost here. He reached for her hand. She jerked away, talons scraping the floor. No, if I touch, I tear. Then tear me, he said, voice like steel. Not strangers, not yourself. Her eyes flashed alien and sorrowful. My corpse, why not run? He swallowed hard. Because when the capsule cracked open and you were there, I decided, no running, not ever again. Her breath shuddered, claws gouging lines in the steel. For a moment she leaned toward him, trembling. Then, the wall blew apart. Mercs stormed in, armored and armed rifles blazing. Rand dove for cover, plasma bolts, shredding the lab around them. Zer roared, not words, not even her voice, but the beasts. Her body surged with impossible strength, eyes blazing white-blue. She tore into the mercs like thunder-given flesh. Limbs flew, armor crumpled like foil. Rand fired too, but he wasn't fighting the mercs. He was watching her, watching the beast take more control with every strike. Blood sprayed her skin, mixing with the glow of her patterns until she was a nightmare and goddess all at once. When the last merc screamed and fell, she stood panting in the ruin. Her chest heaved, claws, dripping, eyes wild and unfocused. Zer whispered. Her head snapped toward him. For a heartbeat, she didn't recognize him. Then recognition flickered weak, fragile. She dropped to her knees, sobbing in a voice that wasn't hers. Beast is here. You should kill me now. Rand lowered his gun, shaking. Not happening. She looked up at him, eyes pleading. Then Solomon. Only way. Rand's stomach twisted. The thought of handing her over felt like betrayal, but watching her break felt worse. Outside, the city howled. Drones swarmed, mercs regrouped. The clock ticked down. Inside, they were breaking apart. The choice. Later that night, as they fled once more, Zer stumbled. Her body convulsed, every muscle locked. Rand caught her, lowering her into the shadows of a ruined church. Stained glass lay shattered on the ground, fragments glowing with reflected neon. Can't. Hold it, she rasped. Don't you dare quit, Rand said, voice breaking. Her claws brushed his cheek, tender despite the tremor. Corpse. Beast kills you, I can't forgive. Then don't let it. Her eyes closed, tears sliding down purple skin. If Solomon can burn it, maybe worth the lock. Rand felt the cliff edge under his feet. He could say no, drag her farther, fight until the last second. Or he could gamble everything on the ghost who promised freedom and revenge. The choice wasn't clear. The city hunted. Time bled. And somewhere Solomon was smiling, knowing the cracks were spreading. Rand looked at Zer, shaking, broken, still beautiful in her defiance. And he knew if he couldn't save her, he'd burn the world trying. The city didn't sleep. By the 31st hour, it was one wound of light and sirens drones slicing across the sky, mercs choking every street. Sentu had declared martial lockdown. The broadcast towers screamed a single message: the fugitive anomaly must be contained. Obey or burn. Rand and Zer staggered through it like ghosts. She was half-conscious now, skin blazing with unstable currents. Each step shook her claws, twitching like they ached for violence. Rand carried most of her weight, every muscle on fire. He could feel her slipping in his arms like holding lightning that refused to stay caged. They reached the core of the city, Sentu Tower. A blade of chrome and glass stabbing the clouds, its top lost in the storm. Rand had seen it every day of his life. Tonight it looked like the world's guillotine. "Ends in there," Zur rasped. Her voice was barely her own. "Either chain breaks, or it kills us both." Rand clenched his jaw. "Then we go up." The tower ascent. The lobby was a slaughterhouse before they even touched it. Merc patrols flooded the marble rifles flashing. Rand and Zur Kiamer hit them like storm surge plasma fire from him claws and fury from her. The floor burned, black walls, shredded blood, spattered across corporate glass. Zer roared and the windows shattered outward, the storm's rain blasting inside. She moved like she wasn't flesh anymore, a thing of hunger and wrath. But Rand saw it. Every kill cost her glow pulse brighter, her control dimmer. Elevators were locked, so they climbed. Floor after floor, firefight after firefight. Offices full of mercs. Labs with scientists screaming as systems melted. Corridors that became kill zones. They tore through them all. Rand's arms shook, his lungs fire, but his rage carried him. Every merc he dropped felt like one step closer to his wife's ghost, to the truth buried under corporate lies. Every time Zur nearly lost herself, he dragged her back, with words, with touch, with fury of his own. By the time they reached the executive decks, they were drenched in blood smoke trailing from armor, the storm behind them howling louder. The Chamber of Solomon. The doors hissed open to the top chamber. It wasn't an office, it was a cathedral. The walls were obsidian glass city, in storm framed beyond like a living backdrop. Hollow screens floated in the air, rivers of code twisting like scripture. And in the center on a raised dais sat Solomon, not in armor, not surrounded by guards, just a thin, calm figure, hands clasped, eyes like the void. Behind him, the sleeper code pulsed in vast glyphs, a language of chains and fire. "You made it," he said softly. His voice was oil over stone. "Good. The story deserves an ending." Zur collapsed to her knees, shaking violently. The beast's light bled out of her in violent pulses. Rand leveled his pistol, teeth bared. "You killed her," he spat. "Didn't you?" Solomon tilted his head. "Your wife, Truth is a sharp word, Ron. Yes, she resisted. She tried to expose what Sentu had buried. She died for it. And they sent you chasing shadows so you'd never look too close." Rand's world tilted. His breath vanished, but the gun stayed level. "You son of a—" "Careful, Solomon, or if you kill me, the code dies with me. And your monster dies screaming with it." Rand froze. His rage fought his need fought his love. Zur screamed, claws carving the floor arcs of energy, lashing like whips. "Clock's gone," she snarled. Her voice split between herself and the beast. "Corpse. It's here." The bargain. Solomon rose, calm as ever. "I can excise it, bind it, burn it. She'll live. But you must let me hold the key. You must let me chain her." Rand's chest heaved. Every instinct screamed no, but Zera's body was tearing itself apart in front of him. "Don't trust," she growled, struggling to stay present. "Corpse. Don't let him." "Without me," Solomon cut in, "she will kill you in moments. And when she does, the city will burn in her wake. Sentu will unleash everything. Millions dead. Are you prepared to let that happen for your pride?" Rand's pistol shook. His vision blurred. He saw his wife's face, her smile. He saw Zur's eyes, her defiance, her broken plea. He saw Solomon's shadow swallowing it all. This was the choice, love or vengeance, chains or chaos. He lowered the gun, then hurled it at Solomon's face. The storm unleashed. Chaos erupted. Zur screamed, the beast ripping free. Lightning burst from her body, shredding the dais, blowing the glyphs apart. Solomon staggered, caught off guard as Rand charged him barehanded, slamming him into the glass wall. The storm outside answered the storm inside. Lightning struck, the tower explosions ripped through systems, alarms howled. Zur was gone inside the beast now. White-blue fire claws like razors, a monster birthed from torment. She tore into the chamber, rending steel like paper. "Control her!" Solomon roared, grappling with Rand, "or she'll slaughter everything." Rand slammed his fist into Solomon's jaw. "You don't get to say her name." The beast lunged. Solomon raised his hand, code flaring, trying to bind her with raw glyphs. But Rand tackled him again, breaking his focus. Rand bellowed through the chaos. "You're not the beast. You're mine. You fight me every damn day. You don't stop now." For an instant, the glow in her eyes flickered. Recognition, fragile, small. Then she screamed, claws driving straight for him. Rand didn't move. He spread his arms. Then kill me, but don't give him the win. Her claws stopped inches from his chest, shaking. Tears streamed down her blazing face. The beast howled, but she forced it back, inch by inch. Solomon's eyes widened. Impossible. No, Rand growled, glaring at him. Human. The end of Solomon. Zur staggered, fighting herself, and Rand seized the moment. He drove Solomon backwards, smashing him against the control glyphs. Sparks flew. The sleeper code writhed. You killed her, Rand snarled. You killed all of them. Solomon sneered through blood. For order. For the future. Rand didn't hesitate. He grabbed Solomon's own blade, a ceremonial monofilament knife from the dais, and drove it through his chest. Solomon gasped, shocked more by betrayal than pain. Fool. Without me, the code. Then it dies, Rand said. He twisted the blade. Solomon convulsed, then fell limp. The glyph shattered the code, screaming as it dissolved into nothing. The beast shrieked, too, ripping through Zur's body, then collapsing, vanishing like smoke. Zur fell into Rand's arms, unconscious but breathing. Human. Herself. For the first time truly free. The aftermath. The tower burned. Systems melted. Drones fell from the sky. Mercs scattered as the storm tore the skyline apart. Rand carried Zur down through fire and ruin. Sirens wailed, citizens screamed, the whole city watching Sentu's grip crumble. On the streets, eyes turned upward as the tower split in two, its crown collapsing in thunder. Sentu's reign had ended in one night of blood and truth. Rand laid Zur down under the storm's rain. She stirred, weak but alive eyes finding his. You stupid corpse, she whispered, voice her own again. He smiled, broken but fierce. Yeah, but I'm yours. She closed her eyes, exhausted but free. And above them, the storm finally began to break. Epilogue. Fire and ash. Days later, the city was ash and rebirth. Sentu shattered, their leaders fled or dead. The sleeper code erased. The people rose in the vacuum, hungry for something real. Rand and Zur walked the ruins together. She was still scarred, still haunted, but no longer chained. He was still grieving, still burning, but no longer blind. Together, they had broken the chain. And together, they would build something from its wreckage. Because in the end, that was humanity's curse and gift, not survival, not vengeance, but the refusal to bow even when the storm demanded it.